The silence was the first sign. On September 5, 2025, the roar of Boeing's Everett factory faded, a sound that had defined American industry for generations. China, in a move that stunned global markets, had effectively grounded America's aerospace giant. This isn't just about Boeing. It's about power, dependence, and the future of the global order. Economic leverage is now a primary weapon in geopolitical conflict. The shutdown of Boeing is not just a commercial dispute. It's a strategic power play. One thing is clear: the world changed on September 5, 2025. To understand today's crisis, we have to look back. The US-China relationship has always been a mix of cooperation and competition. It began in the 1970s with Nixon's visit, opening the door to trade. Boeing stood at the center, a symbol of American innovation and the nation's largest exporter. By the early 2020s, 1 in 4 Boeing planes was destined for China. This created a dangerous codependency. Boeing relied on China for revenue. China relied on Boeing for its aviation sector. Boeing was caught in the middle, an American crown jewel, but uniquely vulnerable to Beijing's pressure. Now, that embrace has turned into a stranglehold. The consequences are global. The first move came without warning. On August 28, 2025, China's Civil Aviation Administration suspended airworthiness certifications for Boeing's top models. The official reason: safety concerns. But everyone knew it was political. The decision banned Boeing's most profitable aircraft from its biggest overseas market. This was economic warfare. The timing was no accident. Just days after the US imposed new sanctions on Chinese tech and finance, Beijing had warned of countermeasures. This was it. A Chinese spokesperson declared, "The US must understand it cannot harm China's core interests without consequences." A week later, China's Ministry of Commerce launched a national security review into Boeing's supply chain. Hundreds of Chinese suppliers were suddenly off-limits. Boeing's production lines ground to a halt. No parts, no customers. The world watched in shock. No one thought China would go this far. The move risked damage to China's own economy, but showed Beijing's new confidence. China was no longer just a participant in the global system. It could change the rules. The US government condemned the move as economic coercion. But words couldn't restart the silent factories. The message was clear. China could now dictate terms to the world's biggest companies. The global balance of power had shifted. Boeing was the first casualty. The world was on notice. The impact on Boeing was immediate and catastrophic. The company's stock plummeted over 30% in 2 days. With its largest market gone and its supply chain severed, Boeing was hemorrhaging cash. Executives scrambled, but options were few. On September 5th, Boeing announced a temporary suspension of production at its major facilities. Over 70,000 employees were directly affected, but the ripple effect was far greater. Boeing's supply chain supports 1.5 million American jobs. The shutdown was announced for 90 days, but insiders feared it could last much longer. The company scrambled to find alternative suppliers, but qualifying new ones could take years. Boeing lobbied the US government for a diplomatic solution. For thousands of workers, the silence in the factories was a deafening reminder of their vulnerability. The future was uncertain. The Boeing shutdown is an economic earthquake, the most immediate impact jobs. Furloughs at Boeing's plants are just the beginning. Thousands of supplier companies across the country are at risk. Many rely on Boeing for survival. Economists estimate a prolonged shutdown could shave half a percentage point off US GDP growth. Washington State's unemployment rate is projected to double. The impact ripples out. Local businesses, real estate, and car dealerships all feel the pain. The crisis exposes a deep vulnerability. Years of outsourcing to China left the US industrial base hollowed out. Rebuilding that capability will be long and costly. In towns like Everett, Boeing is the heart of the community. The shutdown creates fear and uncertainty. Families are strained, community services overwhelmed. The social fabric of industrial America is fraying. The crisis raises a fundamental question. What does it mean to be a manufacturing superpower if your factories can be shut down by a foreign government? America is learning the cost of dependence. The lesson is painful and urgent. The Boeing crisis isn't just an American problem, it's global. Airlines worldwide are scrambling to replace grounded Boeing orders. Airbus, Boeing's European rival, is now the only major supplier of large commercial aircraft. U.S. allies face a tough choice: stand with America or protect their own economic ties to China. The European Union calls for dialogue, but avoids taking sides. Japan and South Korea, deeply integrated with both China and the U.S., watch nervously. The crisis highlights a shift in global power. China is now the largest trading partner for most countries. Beijing can reward or punish nations based on their stance. The Boeing shutdown is a warning to others: defy Beijing and pay the price. The world may split into competing economic blocs, one led by the US, the other by China. The era of seamless globalization is ending. The world is holding its breath. Beyond geopolitics and stock prices, there's a human cost. For tens of thousands of Boeing workers, the shutdown is personal. Mark, a third-generation employee, says, "This isn't just a job. It's my family's legacy. Now, we feel like pawns in a game we can't control." The impact ripples to the next generation. Young people are discouraged from pursuing manufacturing careers. Community colleges and technical schools face an existential threat. If the shutdown continues, vital training programs could disappear, deepening America's skills gap. Local charities report surges in requests for help. Mental health hotlines are overwhelmed. Workers feel abandoned by their leaders and exposed by global trade. This crisis isn't just about economics. It's about the American dream slipping away. The stakes are deeply personal. To make sense of this crisis, we turn to leading experts. Dr. Evelyn Reed, Counsel on Foreign Relations, says China's move is a calculated risk, short-term pain for long-term gain. China is betting the world's addiction to its market outweighs loyalty to the U.S. China has prepared for this, investing in its own aerospace industry, COMAC. The shutdown hurts Chinese airlines now, but opens the door for COMAC to replace Boeing. Dr. Michael Chen, trade economist, says we're seeing the weaponization of supply chains. For decades, global supply chains were built for efficiency, not resilience. China has shown it can turn off the tap on critical components at will. Every company with dependencies on China is now re-evaluating risk. Reshoring manufacturing is difficult and expensive. Friendshoring to allied countries is a more realistic but still challenging path. The era of pure economic globalization is over. From now on, every major business decision is also a geopolitical one. The rules have changed. The world must adapt. The silent Boeing factories are a stark warning. This crisis is a watershed moment for America's economic sovereignty. The path forward is uncertain and perilous. The immediate challenge: resolve the crisis and restart the factories. The U.S. must push back against economic coercion without triggering a full-blown trade war. A return to the old status quo isn't possible. America must rebuild its industrial base, invest in R&D, and train the next generation of workers. Stronger partnerships with trusted allies are essential. The goal: resilience and mutual respect, not just low costs. This is a moment of truth for America. The future of American industry is at a crossroads. The engines must start again.